machine done, except the last two are hand stitch, which is probably not going to give a demo because it's exactly the same concept of the snaps. Okay, so by the way, I put a name that corresponds to the style. So this is number 10, inner corner, right? And hold on one second. L square. Oh, the square corner is the number 11. So inner corner. Okay, let's start with a more difficult one and then we'll branch out into the less difficult one. So make sure that you cut things on the grain line, right? So if you guys can see, my fabric has lines that are on the grain line. So see, it's perfectly on the grain line, okay? It's not gonna work if you don't do it on the grain line because it's supposed to be on the grain line. So what we're gonna stitch this to this is going to be preparing us for the jacket on level 3. It's gonna make this look flat, but like this. See the inner corner? Okay. So when you do this kind of stitching, you are not going to be able to pin the whole thing at once. It takes some little expertise. Okay? So I am going to reinforce this corner because some of your fabrics might be a little heavy yarned, and then once you snip it, because we're going to have to snip it, it's going to start unraveling. So I'm going to turn my stitch to number 1. If the dial doesn't turn, hold the reverse down, and then it's gonna make your dial go easier, okay? So you guys can see the amount of seam allowance that we have in here, right? It's 1/2 inch. So I'm going to reinforce my corner by stitching a sliver less than the 1/2 inch. And I'm gonna stitch just the corner because I'm reinforcing just the corner. You don't need to reverse, okay? So I'm gonna stitch very slowly, right? And how do I know where that is? Well, I actually made a punch hole here. See that my punch hole is in because I want that holding stitch to be in, right? But I also can turn it, and this is the reason why I was so emphatic about making sure you use your knee, because I don't want to be doing these things, okay? I'm not a puppeteer. So I'm going to do a couple more stitches until I get it exactly where I wanted it to be. I think I need one more. And there is exactly where I want it to be. And then I'm gonna stitch. I just want to reinforce the corner. That's all I need to do. Okay? So where is the little scissors? These are the sharpest that I have ever found, and that's why I like them. So let me explain to you what we're going to do first, and then we're going to do it. Where is the piece? Oh, it's here. So I'm going to sew this to this, correct? Mm-hmm. I actually will need to slash it diagonally up to that corner. I actually like to look at it when I'm slashing, okay? So that's why I want to have this fabric on top. If I do right sides together, then I'm not gonna have the plate to measure it. So what I'm going to need to do is go these sides together. See, I'm going to stitch up to the corner, and this side is going to have to flip and sew it in here because it's inside out. Does that confuse you? No?
So right now is there, what facing is up right now?
Well, these are all right faces.
Right face?
Yeah, it always is going to be right face. okay? And I make the pattern so it will be precise. So it's not a guessing game. I'm not gonna have anything left over or missing. It's exact, precise the measurement, okay? So I'm gonna stitch exactly up to that corner, but outside of that line. Remember we stitch a little bit less than half an inch? So I'm gonna be a tiny bit outside of this. So go back to your 2.5 stitch, and I'm going to go and reverse. And now I'm going to stitch it up to that corner. See, I'm a little bit outside of that. If you go over too much, you can always lift it with a foot and accommodate it until you are on the exact place where you wanted it to be. There we go. Now, with the needle down, we're gonna do the presser foot up. I'm gonna turn it. Are you seeing this well?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna slash it exactly on that corner, only the top layer, the one that has the inner corner. Now, I need to slash it, but I cannot cut the thread. If I cut the thread, I need to start all over again. Okay? Because I slashed it, I'm gonna be able to turn this side into this side. So see all of this leftover fabric, I'm gonna move it out of my way. And now I'm going to place it right here. This is out of my way. Now, if you did not slash it enough, you're gonna have a pinch in here, okay? If you slash it too much, you're gonna have a hole, okay? So, like I said, you can't pin the whole thing at once. You need to do one side and then flip it, and then you'll be able to pin the balance. So now I'm just gonna stitch all the way out. So let's look at it. Oh, see that I'm missing here? I have a pinch in here, right? I don't want to have that pinch. My fabric didn't fold correctly. See if I can fix it. Oh, fixed. Okay, so now I'm going to press my seams open. Obviously, I'll do it on the iron. But see that I have this left over? I'm gonna trim it in an angle, but leave yourself about 1/8 of an inch. See, I don't want them to overlap. I don't want it to be bulky on the outside. So if you see it here, once I pressed it correctly, see that I have a nice corner. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay, you can pass it around. All right, so that would be inner corner. Now let's do square corner. Square corner would be if you were to have a square neckline, right? Now you do know that you leave only 1/4 of an inch seam allowance on the edge of the garment, correct? So that's why I have only 1/4 of an inch seam allowance here. So I cut 2 of these. See, it says cut 2. And I'm going to stitch at 1/4 of an inch, and I'm going to turn it. So I like to like this. And I'm doing like a square neckline. So I reverse and I stitch to 1/4 of an inch until I get to that corner. So again, I wanted to just 1/4 of an inch. And I stitch all the way to the end, and then I reverse. So look at what's gonna happen when I turn it inside out. See how it makes that ugly corner? See how it's pulling, right? So what I need to do is I need to cut in a diagonal until that corner, but make sure that I cut very close, but not cut the thread. Yes? So when we turn it over, you see that we have a beautiful laying corner. Because we've released that tension that was pulling from the inside. Yes? Now, some of you have done this with your pants. Some of you didn't take the class with me, but we're going to practice the understitch. The understitch is going to allow us to be able to press very nicely and easily in the corner on the edge. And also it will roll the edge of the neckline in. So how does that work? I'm going to do it from this side. I'm going to stitch on the lining side with the seam allowances towards the lining next to the edge of the neckline. Okay? I'm not stitching on the self, on the outside of the garment. I'm stitching on the lining, and I'm going to be stitching with the seam allowances on it. Can you see that? Okay? So we're going to stitch at maybe 1/8 of an inch or maybe a little bit less. But when you stitch, you need to keep spreading your fabrics out. Do not press before you do this. This does not work if you do. Do not press your seams open, okay? Because you want both seams to go towards the lining. In this, if you want to, you can reverse. Otherwise, you don't have to. It's just a top stitching, okay? And you're gonna stitch up to here. And when you get close to the corner, you're gonna skip and then start after the corner. You will be able to stitch through it, but the only thing it's gonna do is gonna give you a rounded corner, and you want a very sharp corner, okay? So without reversing, I'm going to just skip the corner, maybe 1/2 inch before and then 1/2 inch after. Make sure that you have your seam allowances towards the lining, and then you're gonna spread the fabrics again, and you're gonna stitch it all the way to the end. See how I'm spreading the fabrics until the end. And this is called an understitch. So, see that skip stitch? I'm gonna cut the thread, because otherwise it's gonna be pulling. If it starts coming apart a little bit, it doesn't matter. It's not gonna affect how it looks. But see that understitch? Look at how easy and nice your edge of your neckline rolls over. So when I press it with the iron, you're gonna see it very clean with a very sharp corner right here. You probably guys have seen your dresses or some of your blouses that they do have a top stitching on the inside. This is what it is. Okay? See how in the inside it is there? But look at how on the front side, look at how nicely it rolls over. Beautiful? Okay. Next, and this is the one that you guys might, how you say? Might struggle a little.
Princess seam, no?
Huh?
It's kind of like the princess seam, no?
It's a curve. It's a curve.
But when we did the armpit,
You did the princess seam on the bust, but not everybody has, so this will be a good exercise.
it's
Yes,
similar to it, right?
similar to that. But this goes in a curve out and a curve in. Okay? So let's do this. And for this, you definitely need to pin. It fits exactly. So this is going to be a decorative stitch. Where's the other one? Because these two curves are identical. We're just making a curved line on the inside as a decorative stitch. Yes? So now this is the two right sides. We're going to sew it right sides together. Now, you are not going to match your seam allowances right on the edge. See that the point is with the point? If you do that, it's not going to work, because let me show you. When you sew it at 1/4 inch, see how it's not matching? You actually have to match where you are going to sew, which is your seam allowance. See that there is a little corner sticking out in there? That's what you need to have. Because if we do that, after you sew it, these two are going to match. See? Now, since I know for a fact that these two curves are exactly the right measurement, I'm going to start pinning at the beginning and at the end. When the curve gets much sharper, I'm going to need to
And as you're going?
I'm going to I have to make sure that it pins correctly. So look at what happens. If I try to do this curve, because I have a curve out and a curve in, this is not going to work. Okay? So rule of thumb, whenever you have an inner curve, you're going to do little snips where we need to make them short because it's only 1/4 inch, and you don't want to cut any more than 1/4 inch because you're going to end up having a hole. Look at what happens when I snip it. See that it starts spreading, right? That is because I am concerned where the stitching line is and not where the edge is. Does that make sense? So now I can start pinning. Now, since this exercise is an inner curve into an outer curve, on the opposite pattern piece of fabric, I'm going to have to do the same snips where the inner curve is. See this inner curve right here? See that it doesn't fit? So now I'm going to snip onto that inner curve. This is probably the most, and the inner corner, the most challenging exercises from this whole book. But I need to make this fit exactly because I know for a fact that it fits. And notice that when I'm pinning exactly where I'm going to stitch. Don't pin here, don't pin here. Pin exactly where you're stitching. You don't care that the other side it ruffles, because the idea is that after you sew it, it looks flat. So this is here. Now, if you have more fabric on one side or on the other, take a few pins and readjust your pinning. But it needs to fit. Like for example, I have a little bit extra right here. See that it creates a little pinch there? So I'm going to move these until I have it flat. When I sew, I'm concerned that only where the stitching line goes, there is no pleat. See how it ruffles here? But if you turn it, it will ruffle on the other side. Okay? So, see that little corner that is sticking out? That's what you wanted to have. And I am going to stitch at 1/4 inch. So your pins do not remove them too far away from where your stitching line is, because then everything will move. So as I get close, that's when I start removing them. As I get close, I'm going to make sure that I arrange my fabrics so they don't create a crease in there. And you're going to go very slow. See that I have more fabric on one side than the other? That should not happen. So I need to line up the two edges of the fabrics to be exact. And do it little by little. So be concerned that it looks flat and not creating a pleat in between the pins. Once you finish that little part with that pin, then worry about the next little segment. Now this one, the curve is on the bottom. So you need to make sure that it doesn't creep out and it creates a pleat. So you're going to be organizing the fabric underneath and not the fabric on the top. Yes? Now, see how I created a pleat right here at the end? That should not happen. I need to make sure that this fabric is completely flat, because otherwise I'm going to have a pleat there, and I do not want to have a pleat there. So you guys see, I don't have a pleat on this side, and I do not have a pleat on this other side. But when I press my seams open, I should go to the iron, but anyway. This will look completely flat. See that? There is no pleats in there. No pleats, no pleats. Okay. We're good? So when we press it, this is gonna look flat, and this is more of an embellishment line. Yes? You're all excited?
Yeah.
You're nervous about it? Good.
Oh, the stripes almost lined up.
All right, what's next?
Wait, so this one is two L's that we put together?
Yes, that's what it says on the pattern.
Oh, okay.
And where's the
I
other
thought,
one
I thought it was a
that
square.
was going around?
Oh, cut out.
Where's the inner? Oh, thank you.
And then the tiny square?
The one with the square is somewhere.
Oh, okay, never mind. This is the one that I thought the pattern. That's the one.
Okay. So, next, I'm going to show you two. You just started it?
I didn't stop it.
Oh.